Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to another video. This is the Premier League preview show. Another round of Premier League fixtures is almost upon us. And this one is a big one because obviously this is the penultimate game for a lot of Premier League teams. The penultimate game of what has been a seemingly long and very mad and bizarre, topsy-turvy, up and down, yo-yo-y roller coaster of a season. It's been a pretty big one. There are still two relegation spots left following Southampton's official relegation last week. Could they be decided this weekend? The top four race is still pretty much open. Could that also be decided before the final day of the season, or could that go down to the wire? And of course, the Premier League title itself could all be wrapped up this weekend in what is another huge round of Premier League fixtures. We're going to go through each and every single game, give my thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, most of all, of course, predictions on how I think the games will pan out this weekend. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And I also encourage you lot as well to get involved in the comment section below. Give your thoughts, your comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, your predictions on how you think each and every single game this weekend is going to pan out. And without further ado, let's get into the predictions. We're going to kick things off with Saturday's lunchtime game. It is Tottenham against Brentford at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Big game this one for both of these sides. You've got Tottenham trying to secure their place in a Europa League spot. You've got Brentford, who have finished in the top half of the table this season. Massive well done to them. Done brilliantly well to do that. But there could still be more on the cards to this Brentford side, should they, of course, see results go in their favour, and of course they win the remaining couple of games of the season. Highly unlikely, though, that that may happen, given obviously there is a lot of there is other football to be played and it's kind of out of their hands. But at the same time, they've done well to finish where they are. This one could be a very intriguing game. You've got a Tottenham side who are very hit and miss. You've got a Tottenham side who, although they have the star players in their side to win any game of football, obviously they're struggling. And against the Brentford side, who may fancy their chances of putting this Tottenham side to the sword, if obviously they turn up and play very well, which they can and are capable of doing. They're kind of star players, if you like, in Brandon Buemo and Ivan Toney on the counter-attack can be deadly. And if Tottenham play into their hands, it could be a very long afternoon for Tottenham in that aspect. A draw is possibly the more likely result, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Brentford here. I think Brentford are going to give a good counter-attacking performance of themselves, and I think that this game will end 2-1 to the Bees. Next up, Bournemouth take on Manchester United. This one is going to be a very intriguing game. United aren't exactly safe right now in that top four spot. Liverpool are breathing down their necks. I know that United have a game in hand over the Reds, but of course that game in hand doesn't mean nothing until you win it. They go against the Bournemouth side, who obviously have surprised a lot of people this season by staying up, and staying up quite convincingly is what they have done. They've actually been pretty impressive this season, and full credit goes to the Cherries and their manager Gary O'Neill and everybody else associated with Bournemouth for that. They've been brilliant. In their final home game of the season, they'll want to obviously give a good performance and give a good account of themselves. But against this Manchester United side, they're not the best away from home. Obviously, their home form completely outweighs their away form. And as much as I want to say that Bournemouth get something from this game in order to obviously help my club and Liverpool get a top four spot, I unfortunately don't necessarily see it happening. I think Man United will get the job done by any means necessary. I don't think it'll be entirely convincing. I think Bournemouth will play very well, but I don't think they'll have enough firepower up front or a clinical edge up front in comparison to this United side. So I think that United will get the job done by any means necessary, and I think that they'll win this game by 2-1. Next up, a London derby of sorts between Fulham and Crystal Palace at Craven Cottage. Two teams sat comfortably mid-table, survived this Premier League season. Fulham again a little bit more surprising, I guess, given obviously they were the newly promoted side come the beginning of the season. But they've done solid. And they've done really well to obviously get to the point where they are at now. And as for Crystal Palace, look, things looked a bit difficult for them at the beginning of this year when obviously Patrick Vieira was still in charge. But Roy Hodgson has done a brilliant job in steadying the ship, so to speak, and actually getting them to score plenty of goals, which is quite surprising of a Roy Hodgson side, to be honest. Look, nothing is really on the line here. Nothing is really up for grabs. This is more just for pride more than anything. A bit of a London derby, maybe a bit of a way just to go out and have a bit of fun, or just to try some new things different, or just to see out the rest of the campaign, really. So I'm going to go with a bit of a goals galore sort of thing. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw come the final whistle. I think both teams are in pretty good form, but I think it will just end in a draw. Call it down the middle. 2-2 is my prediction here. Next up, we're off to Anfield, is Liverpool against Aston Villa. Massive game, obviously, for Liverpool, this one, as they continue to breathe down the necks of both Newcastle and Manchester United for a top 4 place. They can put some real pressure on Newcastle before their game on Sunday, whilst also United obviously play at the same time as them on Saturday. But they have a big task themselves in obviously competing against Unai Emery's Aston Villa. The upside for the Reds is that they are at home. Now, obviously, their home form outweighs their away form, but obviously Liverpool have been on a bit of a roll in recent weeks in which they've managed to accumulate, I think they're something like 9 games unbeaten now, 6 or 7 games on a winning run there. But they are coming up against a Villa side who are strong themselves, and although they've had a couple of bad results in recent weeks, they did get back to obviously winning ways last weekend against Tottenham. Obviously, Europa League football is still a very big possibility for Unai Emery's side. I don't think a lot of people would have predicted that from the beginning of the season. They'll want to obviously maintain that stronghold as well. So this one could be a very intriguing game ahead. Now, as far as what Liverpool are concerned, I think they may have just that bit more of a clinical and attacking edge up front. The likes of the form of Mohamed Salah, for example, the form of Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think will give them the edge in this game. And obviously it's the final home game of the season for Liverpool. They want to give their fans something to write home about, something to kind of cling on to for the final game of this Premier League season, and what has obviously been a very difficult season for the Reds. So that is why I'm going to say Liverpool win this game, and I'm going to say it's going to end 2-1 to Jurgen Klopp's side. Next, we're off to Molineux. It is Wolves taking on Everton. Massive game for Everton, this one, of course, because they are in a relegation battle. They can put some real pressure on the likes of Leeds and Leicester before their games further on this weekend. And they come up against the Wolves side, who, of course, are safe and sound. Bottom half of the table, but safe and sound nonetheless. They survive and keep their heads above water for another season. Look, Everton have got something to play for, Wolves don't. Does that necessarily mean that Everton have more to play for and therefore will win this game? Maybe, maybe not. Obviously, time will tell. This Everton side have the potential to obviously get the job done. We saw that a couple of weeks ago when they absolutely put Brighton, of all teams, to the sword in a 5-1 win for the Toffees and for Sean Dyche's side there. But like I say, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll get the job done here. Wolves will be difficult. Wolves will obviously want to see out the rest of their season in a professional manner. And of course, this is another home game at Molineux for them. And like I say, they want to give their fans something to be happy about come the end of the campaign in what is, for them, pretty much a dead rubber game. Just a game to see out the rest of the campaign. Does that mean it will be easy? Not by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be tough for both sides. I can see Everton winning it, but at the same time, I think a draw is also more likely. So I am going to say a draw, and I'm going to say that this game will end 1-1 come the final whistle. For our Saturday evening viewing, we go to the City Ground for the final time this season as Nottingham Forest host Arsenal. Arsenal, of course, will be licking their wounds from last week's defeat to Brighton, in which they saw their title hopes and ambitions shatter before their very eyes. Manchester City are very close to winning that title right now. The advantage is very firmly within City's hands. They are 1 win away from confirming that. More on that a little later. But it did mean that that defeat meant that Arsenal's title hopes are pretty much gone for this season. Will that spur Arsenal on to redeem themselves for last week's poor performance and poor defeat, or will they still be feeling a little bit sorry for themselves? And can obviously Nottingham Forest take advantage? This is a massive game for Forest. If they get a good result here, they can pretty much put their fears of relegation to bed, securing their Premier League survival for this season, their first season back in England's top flight division. It's a massive game for Forest, this one, and it is their last game, like I say, at home for this season in the Premier League against an Arsenal side who, like I say, could either feel sorry for themselves or it could spur them on to redeem themselves for last week's poor performance. For Forest, we've seen them already this season take some pretty big points off of big teams. We saw them take points off Liverpool, we saw them take points off of City whilst playing them at home. It's their home form that has seen them get a real big shot, obviously keeping their heads above water and maintaining their Premier League status for another season. And I feel like if Arsenal aren't careful, this could be a bit of a banana skin for them, especially with the hostile atmosphere that obviously the City ground is going to create. They're going to be really up for this one, are the Forest fans, and I think it's going to be a really good game for our Saturday night viewing. As far as a prediction goes, look, I can see a draw being likely. I think Forest might get something from this game, but at the same time, I think Arsenal may just redeem themselves for last week, give their fans a little bit of something to just to hang the end of the season on. I know it's been a bit of a disappointing season towards the end, but I think they'll give something back to the Arsenal fans for this season, and that is why I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a goals galore type situation. But I see Arsenal just edging this one by 3-2. Now moving on to Sunday's games, and first up we're at the London Stadium. It is West Ham taking on Leeds United. Obviously a massive game for Leeds, this one. They are in the relegation zone. They can't compromise in this game. They can't really afford to lose or draw. They need to win. No question about it. No questions asked. No doubt about it. They need to win this game, and especially because if they are to lose this game and Everton are to win on Saturday, Leeds will go down this weekend. That's it. That's the scenario at play. Everton win, Leeds definitely need to win to give them a fighting chance on the final day of the season. Anything less will pretty much see Leeds go down this weekend. A draw may not be good enough, although it could come down to goal difference come the end of it. It depends on how things play out. But otherwise, Leeds need to win. They come up against the West Ham side, who are pretty much not got anything to play for this season. They're pretty much looking at the Europa Conference League. At the time of recording, we do not know, obviously, what the result is of their second leg Europa Conference League tie will be. They are winning going into that second leg, but so they could have a Europa Conference League final on the horizon. Does that mean that their players may not be as going full throttle in the Premier League, given that they are safe and sound right now and they may be preserving their energy and their risk of injury, shall we say, for that Europa Conference League final? That remains to be seen. It could be interesting to see how David Moyes and his West Ham side approach this one, or are they going to try and see out the rest of the season in a professional manner, in a way to give something in the Premier League to obviously their home crowd for this game? Remains to be seen. Massive game. Massive game, this one. Leeds need to go all out in this one, like I say. And I'm going to go with a draw in this one. I think Leeds will get a point in this one, and I think they may just keep this relegation battle alive to the final day of the season. I'm going to go with a point. I think Big Sam will get a point from this game. Obviously, he got a big point last weekend against Newcastle. I think they'll get something similar here. I'm going to go with 2-2 come the final whistle. Next up, we're at the Amex Stadium. It is Brighton taking on an already relegated Southampton. Doom and gloom for Southampton right now. And they come up against Brighton at home, looking to maintain their position in a Europa League spot. Massive game for the Seagulls, this one. They can really take advantage of a Southampton side that have got nothing to lose. Does that make Southampton a little dangerous? Potentially. with nothing to lose. They may just throw caution to the wind a little bit. They are already down and out, but they could either try and give their fans a little bit of something to give them for what has been an incredibly tough season for the Saints faithful, or they could simply just not care, roll over, and it could get even worse for the Saints against the Brighton side, who can be very good on their day, and obviously are coming into this one off the back of last week's victory against Arsenal. They of course play on Thursday night against Newcastle. That's going to be a massive game for both clubs in that one. We'll have to wait and see how Brighton approach this one. But on paper, Brighton should win, and I am going to go with a Brighton win overall, and I'm going to say that the Seagulls win this game by 3-0. We're going to jump ahead to Monday night's game, and it's a massive clash at St James's Park. Leicester travel to Newcastle to take on the Toon Army. Toon Army obviously looking to maintain their place in the top 4, looking to obviously keep hold of that Champions League football place that they have for next season. But they come up against a Leicester side who are battling themselves, and they're battling, of course, relegation, battling to survive. They need to win. There's even more pressure on Leicester this weekend because they'll obviously know the results of the Everton game and the Leeds United game, as well as the Nottingham Forest game as well, before even kickoff takes place on Monday night. So there's even more pressure on Dean Smith's side to obviously produce, and they need a win. Again, it's similar to Leeds. There's no compromise. They need to win to pretty much give them a massive chance of surviving on the final day of the season. No compromise, nothing. And it's going to be made even worse, obviously, if the results go in Leeds and Everton's favour going into that final day of the season. They come against a very tough side, though, in Newcastle. Going to be very tough for Leicester to get a result here. Only 2 teams have gone to St James's Park this season and beaten this Newcastle side. Newcastle have been a little bit hit and miss these past few weeks. They obviously suffered a draw against a fellow relegation candidate in Leeds last weekend. They've got Brighton on Thursday night. That could be interesting to see if the extra 90 minutes in the legs of those Newcastle players may carry a bit of fatigue or anything along those lines for this game coming up this weekend. So that could maybe work in Leicester's favour. But this Leicester side have been extremely poor. They're going to need to pull out all the stops and dig deep with true grit and determination to try and get anything from this game that will give them a fighting chance going into that final game of the season. And remember, Leicester's goal difference is superior to both Leeds and Everton, so that could also play a massive part going forward in this key relegation battle. The unfortunate thing for Leicester is I don't see them winning this game. I think Newcastle will come out of this one on top, and that is why I am saying that Eddie Howe's side win this game by 3-1. And finally, easily the biggest game of this round of fixtures, the massive game coming up on Sunday, 4 o'clock. Manchester City take on Chelsea at the Etihad Stadium. This could be the game in which City wrap up the Premier League title officially for this season and make it 3 Premier League titles in a row. The three-peat is definitely on, and it could all be wrapped up this weekend. Manchester City, Pep Guardiola's side, take on Chelsea, Frank Lampard's side. It's going to be a massive game of football in which I can only really see one winner. I don't think Chelsea can stop them. I know Chelsea have been or can be awkward on their day. I know they have the potential to be awkward, but I just don't see it happening here. I think Manchester City have got this Premier League title completely wrapped up. They could even take the mick with it and draw their last 3 games that they've got to play in order to get the 3 points that they need to obviously win this Premier League title. Either way, City have definitely won it in my opinion. City win this game pretty comfortably. I know that they've got Real Madrid tonight at the time of recording in the Champions League. A massive game that's going to be. But then they can focus all of their efforts into preserving their energy and to focusing on Manchester United in the FA Cup final. Then Inter Milan, potentially, if they get past Madrid tonight, in the Champions League final. Going to be a massive game of football tonight. Going to be a massive game on football on Sunday. And I think City will walk out of Sunday as Premier League champions yet again. Pep Guardiola adding another Premier League title to his collection of trophies, to his resume. Erling Haaland spearheading this City attack to another Premier League title. His first Premier League title, obviously, maybe of many, depending on how many he's staying. This has got a City win written all over it, unfortunately, for the rest of the Premier League and for Chelsea and for a lot of other teams as well. As far as the prediction goes, look, with the form of Erling Haaland, with the form of Manchester City, I can only see it going one way. Like I say, City to win, City to wrap up the Premier League title. And I'm going to say that this game will end an emphatic 4-1 win in favour of Pep Guardiola's side. But of course, as I always say, these are the thoughts, comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, predictions of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of all of the games that are coming up this weekend in another massive, intriguing and exciting round of Premier League fixtures that is almost upon us? Obviously, it's a massive round of fixtures because it's the penultimate game of the season for a lot of these Premier League teams. And of course, a lot of things can be decided this weekend, including relegation zone, relegation teams, top four maybe, and potentially the wrapping up of the Premier League title itself. I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, your predictions on all of the games that are coming up in this weekend's round of upcoming Premier League fixtures. They could all make for intriguing, exciting, and very interesting reading down below in the comment section. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way up if you enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new, want to see more content like this. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you very much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, or Premier League predictions video, should I say. And I'll see you all again soon in another video.